the forbidden planet. Every star map in the galaxy had one place no one went. It was marked in deep red, surrounded by warning symbols. Earth. For centuries, every species in the galaxy had learned the same rule. Do not go there. It was not just a law, it was a survival instinct. Traders turned their ships away. War fleets changed their paths. Explorers deleted it from their navigation charts. Nobody wanted to be the one who broke the rule. But Commander Ralvek had never been like the others. He was an explorer, born on the far edge of the rim worlds. He didn't believe in old ghost stories or legends passed down through frightened whispers. He believed in what he could see and touch. So when he found the signal, he didn't turn away. It was an old transmission buried deep in forgotten star records, a human distress call. The voice was faint, cracked by centuries, but the words were clear. If anyone can hear us, help. Ralvek played it again and again in the dark of his quarters. It was strange. No human voice had been recorded in living memory. The humans were gone before his species even discovered space travel, and yet here it was, a call from the dead. His crew hated the idea. "Commander, it's suicide," his pilot hissed, tail curling tight. "No alien ship has ever returned from Earth. It's cursed." Ralvek looked out at the stars through the bridge window. Then maybe it's time someone came back. The ship, Vaethra's Edge, cut through the cold black like a silver knife. For weeks they traveled toward the Sol system. The closer they came, the more silent the galaxy seemed. Navigation beacons vanished from the maps. Trade lanes ended abruptly. Even automated probes refused to approach. And then, one day, Earth appeared. From orbit, it looked calm, too calm. No satellites, no orbital stations, no lights on the dark side. Only the shadow of oceans and on an ents, wrapped in clouds. The pilot shivered. No signs of life. No power grids. No signals. Except, they heard it. The same distress call. Still playing. Still waiting. Ralvek's hand hovered over the control console. "Prepare for descent." The crew exchanged nervous looks. No one wanted to say it out loud, but every one of them felt it. The air on the ship had grown heavier. Even the hum of the engine sounded quieter, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The ship pierced the atmosphere. At once every sensor went wild, not from heat or turbulence, but from something else, something the computers couldn't identify. Metal screamed in the hull. The lights flickered. "Shields are fine," the engineer said, voice shaking. "But, Commander, the AI." Ralvek turned. The ship's AI had gone completely still. Its central display, usually glowing with data, now showed a single sentence: "Leave." The words stayed there, unblinking. Outside, the clouds broke apart, and the crew saw what lay below. Cities. Enormous cities. Not destroyed by war, but abandoned. Skyscrapers stood like black teeth against the horizon. Roads stretched for miles without a single vehicle. A human flag, colors faded but still there, clung to the top of a rusted building, snapping in the wind. The pilot swallowed hard. "Commander, I don't like this." Ralvek ignored him. "Take us lower." They descended over a wide river, where bridges had collapsed into the water long ago. Birds, or something like birds, circled high above. Far below, empty windows stared up at them like 1,000 watching eyes. Then the signal changed. The voice, cracked and broken for centuries, suddenly grew clear. "You shouldn't be here." The crew froze. It was the same human voice, but now it was speaking directly to them. Ralvek leaned toward the comm. "Identify yourself. Who are you?" No answers. Were. Just static. The engineer whispered, "Commander, that message wasn't coming from orbit anymore. It's coming from here, ground level." Ralvek's jaw tightened. "Then we'll find it." The Vaethra's Edge hovered over a cracked landing pad on the edge of the city. Dust swirled in the thruster's heat. The place looked dead. It felt dead. but Ralvek had the strange, cold feeling that they were being watched. The landing struts touched the ground. The ship hissed as the ramp lowered. The crew hesitated. No one wanted to be the first to step out. Ralvek didn't wait. His boots hit the ancient concrete. The air smelled dry, like stone and metal. The wind carried a faint sound, a soft, distant whisper, like someone speaking just out of hearing range. He turned to his crew. "Stay sharp. Keep your weapons low but ready." The city streets stretched out in silence. No plants, no animals, no signs of decay. Just stillness, as if the world had been frozen in time. And then, as they turned a corner, they saw her. A little human girl standing in the middle of the road. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. She wore a simple white dress. Her skin was pale, her hair dark, and her eyes didn't blink. Ralvek stepped forward slowly. "We're not here to hurt you." The girl tilted her head, then she spoke, her voice calm and almost kind. "Go home, before they wake up." Before Ralvek could ask who they were, the girl was gone. Ghosts in the atmosphere. Ralvek stood frozen on the cracked road, staring at the place where the little human girl had been. 1 second she was there. The next, she was gone, as if the air itself had swallowed her. The crew looked around nervously. The wind had stopped. Even the faint whispering sound had vanished. "Commander," the pilot whispered, "there's no heat signature, no life signs. She wasn't real." Ralvek's eyes narrowed. "Real or not, she spoke to us." They moved deeper into the city. The buildings loomed like silent towers of glass and steel. Most were intact, but their windows reflected nothing. Not the sun, not the clouds, not even the crew walking past. Ralvek reached for his comm. "Ship, report status." "Static." He tried again. No response. The engineer's hands shook over his scanner. "Commander, the Vathra's edge isn't answering, and..." His voice caught. "The signal isn't gone, it's inside the atmosphere now, moving." Ralvek's gaze lifted to the rooftops. Shadows shifted, not like animals, but like shapes trying to decide if they should be seen. A low metallic hum rolled through the air. It didn't come from any machine they knew. It felt more like it was inside their skulls. The pilot winced, clutching his head. "Commander, the air feels wrong." They turned a corner and stopped dead. The street ahead was covered in a thin layer of gray dust. At first glance, it looked like ordinary ash, but when a breeze touched it, the dust moved. It rippled in patterns, crawling across the ground like it was alive. The engineer crouched down, holding his scanner close. "These aren't natural particles. They're machines, billions of them. Microscopic, old, but still active." Ralvek knelt beside him. The dust shivered at his shadow, then flowed away as if avoiding him. "What are they doing?" the pilot asked. "They're watching," the engineer said, his voice barely above a whisper. A sudden crack echoed through the street. Not a weapon. A sound like something heavy falling far away. Ralvek raised a hand. "Stay alert." The shadows on the rooftops began to move again. This time they didn't hide. Tall, angular figures appeared, and black silhouettes with glowing lines across their bodies. They didn't rush forward. They didn't speak. They simply watched. The pilot's voice trembled. "Commander, they're not moving, but they're closer than they were a second ago." Ralvek kept his eyes on the figures. "Back to this ship, now." They moved quickly, boots crunching against broken concrete, but the air grew heavier with every step, like gravity was pressing harder. The humming sound grew louder and the dust began to swirl in strange spirals at their feet. Then through the comms, the girl's voice returned. "They can smell you now." Ralvek's heart pounded. "Who are they?" No answer, only the sound of slow, mechanical breathing. When they reached the landing pad, Ralvek's stomach dropped. The Vathra's edge was still there, but it wasn't the same. The hull was covered in that same shifting dust, crawling like ants over every surface. The ship's lights were off, the engines cold. The ramp was still down, but beyond it, The inside of the ship was pitch black, as if the light itself had been erased. The pilot stepped back. "That's not our ship anymore." Before Ralvek could reply, the figures from the rooftops appeared at the edge of the pad. They didn't walk. They simply were there, closer now. The girl's voice whispered again, right next to Ralvek's ear this time. But when he spun around, no one was there. "You're already inside the test." The dust surged forward like a wave. The first warning. The dust stopped just short of Ralvek's boots, swirling like it was tasting the air. Every instinct told him to move back, but something stronger told him to stand still. The crew held their breath. No one dared speak. Then, from the black shadow inside the ship's ramp, a small shape stepped forward. It was the girl again. Same pale skin, same white dress, same unblinking eyes. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Not yet." Ralvek took a careful step toward her. "What is this place? Why is Earth a dead zone?" The girl tilted her head like she was studying him. "Because the stars aren't ready." Before he could ask more, the ground beneath them trembled. The figures at the edge of the landing pad vanished, not ran, not flew, simply were gone. The dust at their feet pulled away, flowing down the street like it was retreating. But the silence that followed was worse than the movement. The girl reached into her pocket and pulled out something small and metal. She held it out to Ralvek, for when they wake. It was a rusted human dog tag, the letters barely readable, but one thing was clear. The date engraved on it was 500 years old. Ralvek looked up to ask her what it meant, but she was already fading, not walking away, not running, just fading like mist in sunlight. Then the voice came. Not hers this time, deep, metallic, everywhere at once. "You have been marked." The crew's comm units lit up, even though they were dead moments ago. Streams of unreadable human text scrolled across their visors. The pilot grabbed Ralvek's arm. "Commander, this is bad. I think it's scanning us." The text stopped. The deep voice returned. "Leave or be remembered." Before anyone could move, the blackness inside the ship burst outward like a living shadow. It wrapped around the Vaithra's edge's hull, and the dust surged upward, disappearing into the shadow's mass. When the blackness pulled back, the ship looked untouched, but its lights remained dead. Ralvek's throat was dry. "We're leaving. Now." But as they stepped onto the ramp, the girl's voice whispered one last time, right inside Ralvek's mind. "If you leave now, they will follow." Ralvek froze. Something about the way she said they sent a cold shiver down his spine. He turned to his crew. "No. We find out what this is, and we end it." Far above them, high in the clouds, massive shapes began to move, shadows of the past. The clouds above them were no longer still. Ralvek could see them twisting, curling in slow spirals, but it wasn't the wind. Shapes moved inside them, huge shapes. For a moment, he thought they were ships, but then one shifted and a faint metallic glint flashed through the mist. The pilot. His voice was tight. "Commander, those aren't clouds. They're camouflage." A low rumble rolled through the air, deep enough to shake the ground under their feet. The Vaithra's edge vibrated as if something enormous had just passed above it. Ralvek kept his eyes locked on the shifting sky. "Weapons ready, but don't fire unless I say." The engineer scanned the sky, his hands shaking. "I'm detecting hull signatures. Human hull signatures, but they're ancient, thousands of years old." The pilot swallowed hard. "And still moving." The clouds tore open for a heartbeat, and Ralvek saw it. A machine larger than any warship he had ever encountered. It was shaped like a spearhead, its surface covered in strange golden patterns. The patterns glowed faintly, as though the thing was alive. It slid through the sky with silent grace, and when it passed overhead, every device the crew carried went dead again. Then the voice came, this time from everywhere at once, as if the entire planet was speaking. "You walk among the last vaults of Earth. State your intent." Ralvek stepped forward. "We came because we heard your signal. We thought someone needed help." Silence. Then, "Help or conquest?" Ralvek glanced at his crew. Neither. We seek truth. A pause. Then the voice shifted, colder now. Truth demands a price. The dust on the streets began to move again, flowing like rivers toward a broken building at the end of the block. The crew followed, weapons drawn but lowered. The building's facade was cracked, its windows shattered, but inside, it was untouched. They stepped into a massive underground chamber lit by soft blue light. Along the walls were rows of metal cases, each containing a weapon unlike anything the galaxy used now. Rifles, blades, and devices Ralvek couldn't even name. In the center of the room stood a holographic table. It flickered to life as they approached. Images appeared, not of aliens, but of humans, soldiers, leaders, engineers, speaking to each other in a language long dead, but the hologram had no translation. The engineer stepped closer and pointed at a final image, a council chamber, with a human leader addressing the room. The figure raised a hand, and words appeared in glowing script above him. Ralvek squinted. "Can you translate that?" The engineer's scanner beeped. His face went pale. "It says, Earth will sleep until the stars deserve us again." The chamber trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. The voice returned. "The stars are not ready. Leave." The pilot stepped back. "Commander, that's not a warning. That's an order." But Ralvek's gaze had fallen on one case in the far corner. It was different from the rest. A single glass pod with a small sealed device inside. On the glass, scratched in human handwriting, were 3 words in galactic standard: "Do not open." The Guardians, Ralvek stood before the glass pod, his reflection staring back at him. The words scratched into the surface, "Do not open," seemed less like a warning and more like a challenge. The pilot's voice broke the silence. "Commander, I don't think this is just a weapon." Ralvek's eyes narrowed. "Then what is it?" The engineer checked his scanner. "It's old, predating even the last recorded human fleets. Power sources impossible to identify. It's still active." The chamber lights flickered. Then, without touching it, the pod opened. Cold mist spilled out, curling around Ralvek's boots. Inside the pod, the device pulsed with a faint blue glow. It looked simple, a sphere no bigger than his hands, etched with the same golden patterns they'd seen on the giant ship in the clouds. The glow brightened. The entire bunker shuddered, and a deep metallic sound filled the air, not mechanical, but alive, like a massive creature exhaling after a long sleep. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, something stepped forward. It was tall, 3 times the height of any alien Ralvek had seen. Its body was forged from dark metal, its edges sharp, its movements slow but certain. Across its chest glowed the emblem of old Earth. The pilot gasped. "That's a Guardian." The figure's voice was deep but clear. "Designation Ralvek. You have broken the seal. You will be judged." The crew raised their weapons, but Ralvek lifted his hand. "Wait, we didn't come to fight." The Guardian tilted its head, scanning them with a single beam of light that swept from head to toe. The beam lingered on Ralvek. Intent, curiosity, conflict level, pending. "You have one chance." Ralvek's throat was dry. "One chance for what?" The Guardian stepped closer, its heavy feet echoing in the chamber. "To prove you are not like the others who came." Ralvek's mind raced. Others? They came for power. They came for conquest. They came thinking Earth was dead. They did not leave. The glow in the sphere brightened again, casting long shadows across the walls. "Your test begins now." The ground split beneath them, and the blue light surged upward like a wave. In a blink, they were no longer in the bunker. They stood in a vast, open plain under a black sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. The pilot turned in panic. "Commander, this isn't real. We're inside some kind of construct." Ralvek's eyes locked on the horizon. There, in the distance, shapes were moving. Dozens, then hundreds. Humanoid, armored, coming straight for them. The Guardian's voice thundered in the air. "Survive, or vanish." The awakening. Ralvik's boots sank slightly into the strange black soil. The air here was heavy, thick, and cold, but it wasn't just weather. It felt like the atmosphere itself was watching them. The figures on the horizon were closing in fast. At first they seemed like soldiers, but as they drew closer, the truth became clear. These were not alive. They were machines. Human-built war machines walking with perfect inhuman precision. Their armor was etched with the same golden pattern seen on the great Shi in the clouds. No lights, no weapons visible. But Ralvik could feel the danger in them, like standing too close to a storm. The Guardian's voice boomed from nowhere and everywhere at once. You face what the galaxy fears, the unyielding. The engineer's eyes darted across the incoming army. They're scanning us and adjusting their formation. The pilot muttered under his breath. Adjusting for what? Ralvik didn't answer. He knew. They were adjusting for the fastest way to kill them. The first wave charged. The ground shook. Their movements were too fast for their size, closing the distance in seconds. Ralvik drew his rifle and fired. The shot hit one square in the chest, but instead of falling, the machine caught the blast in its palm, absorbing it into its body. The Guardian's voice rumbled again. Weapons alone will not save you. Show me why you are different. Ralvik's mind raced. He dropped to one knee, scooping a handful of the black soil. It moved, just like the nano dust they'd seen on the city streets. It wasn't soil at all. It was dormant nanotech. He remembered the girl's voice. You're already inside the test. He threw the soil at the nearest machine. The particles clung to its joints, locking them for a brief moment. The engineer's eyes lit up. It reacts to thought. Commander, we can control it. Ralvik focused, willing the particles to harden. The machine froze completely, its limbs locking in place. The Guardian's tone shifted, almost curious. Interesting. Instinct over violence. But the rest of the army didn't stop. They spread out, surrounding the crew in a tightening circle. Then the sky changed. Above them, streaks of light appeared, like stars falling in reverse. The black clouds tore open, and through them descended massive shapes. The human warships they'd glimpsed earlier, but now they were awake. Engines roared, and a hound, an unshakable presence filled the air. The machines on the ground stopped instantly, their heads tilting upward as if listening to an unheard command. The Guardian stepped forward, its towering form casting a shadow over Ralvik. You are not the first to reach this stage, but you may be the first to leave with a message. Ralvik's voice was low. What message? The Guardian's glowing eyes locked on him. Tell the stars, humanity is coming back. The ground beneath them split with blinding light, and the vision shattered. Ralvik and his crew were suddenly back in the ruined city, standing beside the Vaithra's edge. But the ship was no longer covered in dust. Its lights were on. Its systems hummed. Only one thing had changed. A new mark burned into the hull, the emblem of old Earth. The return of humanity, the Vaithra's edge tore through the void, leaving Earth's silent orbit behind. But the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like a held breath, ready to be released. Ralvik sat in the captain's chair, staring at the emblem now burned into his ship's hull. It glowed faintly, as if alive. No matter how many scans they ran, they couldn't understand what it was made of. All they knew was that it wasn't coming off. The pilot broke the quiet. Commander, we should erase our logs. If the other fleets see what's on that hull, Ralvik's voice was calm but firm. They need to see it. They emerged from hyperspace into the trade lanes of the core worlds. It didn't take long for the first patrol to notice them. The alien ships hailed them immediately, demanding an explanation for the symbol. Within hours, Ralvik was pulled before the High Council of the Galactic Core. The chamber was filled with leaders from dozens of species, their eyes locked on the glowing emblem projected in the air above him. The speaker, a thin reptilian with scales like silver glass, leaned forward. Commander Ralvik, where did you get this mark? Ralvik didn't blink. Earth gave it to me. A ripple of unease moved through the chambers. Several counselors whispered among themselves, others stiffened in their seats. The speaker's voice sharpened. That world is a dead zone. No one returns from it. You lie. Ralvek stepped forward, his voice steady. Then ask your own archives. Ask how many of your fleets disappeared there. Ask why you've never found their wreckage. Ask why Earth is silent, but never gone. The room grew colder. Ralvek let the silence stretch before he spoke again. I was given a message. It's for all of you. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every leader present. Tell the stars. He paused, letting the weight of the words sink in. Humanity is coming back. Before anyone could respond, the emblem on the projection flared bright, too bright to look at. Every communication device in the room went dead. And then a new voice spoke through every speaker, every channel, every ship in the core worlds. It was a human voice. Calm, certain, unmistakable. This is Earth. We remember. Across the galaxy, war fleets scrambled, some to prepare for battle, some to surrender before a shot was even fired. Merchants pulled their ships from the lanes. Pirate lords abandoned entire sectors overnight. And in the shadows of uncharted space, ancient human warships began to move. Ralvek watched it all unfold from the bridge of the Vaethra's edge. For the first time in his life, he understood why the galaxy feared that red mark on the star maps. It was never a warning. It was a promise.